Welcome to another exercise in the workbook statistics. This time I'm going to talk about the normal distribution, and we have an exercise on this topic. Our task here: an outlet center has their own food court. Each customer spends on average 12 euros while there. In the context of a survey, additionally it has been determined that the variance of the spendings is at 25 euros squared, and that the amount spent are normally distributed. Well, this already tells us we're going to use the normal distribution for this exercise. Our first task to do here: the center marketing is interested in those customers that spend more than 20 euros. What is the probability that a customer spends more than 20 euros? Second, under the assumption that on average 10,000 customers visit the food court each week, how many persons will spend more than 20 euros during the visit? And finally, see how many visitors will spend between 10 euros and 14 euros during the visit. Well, let's work through the three parts step by step. Well, since we already cleared it's normally distributed, we know which distribution to use, which characteristics, which statistics we actually need to solve these exercises. If we start with part A, what we're looking for is the probability that the spendings are larger than 20. So we're looking here for x being larger or equal to 20. Since we cannot use this description because the normal distribution requires all probabilities to be written as smaller or equal to, we simply turn this around by using the counter probability. So instead of going with x being larger than 20, probability thereof, we go with 1 minus the probability of x being smaller or equal to 20. That's what I meant with counter probability. So if we want to do this, we have our test value 20 here, and from the exercise we also know that the average, the mean, is 12 and that the variance is 25. Well, we're not needing the variance here, we need the standard deviation, so we can simply get the square root of the 25, giving us a standard deviation of 5. Then we have all the information we need to first off standardize the 20. Standardization means we're going to subtract the mean and divide this by the standard deviation, giving us an end result here of 1.6. It's inside this big phi, meaning the 1.6 we have to look up in our table for the standard normal distribution. If we do this, we find a value of 0.9452. We're going to subtract this from the 1, from the counter probability, and we get as a final result 5.48%. So roughly 5.5% chance that a customer will spend more than 20 euros in a food court. That was already part 1, and we can continue onwards with our next part, with part B. And in part B the question was how many of the 10,000 customers actually spend more than 20 euros. Well, since we already know the probability that someone will spend more than 20 euros, we get this from part A. We can simply multiply the 10,000 with this probability, giving us as an end result 548. So 548 customers will spend more than 20 euros while visiting the food court. So this leaves for us only the third and final part. And here we want to know that the probability, or we should calculate the probability that someone spends between 10 and 14 euros. And whenever we have something of an interval like this one here, what we're going to do, we could either go with smaller or equal than 14 minus smaller or equal to 10. That's one possibility. Or in this case, we can also use something else. Because if we look critically, we see the mean is 12. So the 10 is the same distance from the mean as the 14. They are both 2 units apart. Whenever we have something like this, we can simplify it by simply going with 1 minus 2 times probability of x being smaller than 10. So the lower bound of this. Meaning here we only have to calculate one probability and not two of them. If you're not sure about this, if you can't remember, go with the easy way, calculate both probabilities. In the end, it's exactly the same. Here we're going to use this formula with the same information as before, mean of 12, standard deviation of 5. So we're going to look for this probability, meaning we're going to subtract from the 10 the mean and divide it by the standard deviation for standardization purposes, giving us a value of minus 0.4. Well, the tables for the standard normal distribution only contain values 0 or larger. So before we can continue, we have to transform this into value of 0 or larger. We can do this by replacing this expression, so the phi of minus 0.4, by 1 minus phi of 0.4. So we're more or less drawing the minus in front of it and putting 1 here. So we're going to change it this way, and then we can look up the 0.4. For the 0.4 in the table for standard normal distribution, we're going to find a value of 0.6554. So once I put all of this into a calculator and get as a final result 31.08%. So there's roughly a 31% chance that someone will spend somewhere between 10 and 14 euros in a food court. Well, that was already everything there is to this exercise. I hope you enjoyed it. I say goodbye and see you next time.